Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for the Ad Hoc Report section of the CobbleStone Conference. My name is Michael Semple, and I am a part of the CobbleStone training team. Today, we're going to be learning about how to build an ad hoc report and how to also build dashboards upon these reports and to help our efficiency within our CobbleStone system. So a little bit of background information about ad hoc reports. The term ad hoc in Latin means to this and was later adapted in English to mean as necessary. So ad hoc reporting means to get information as needed or as necessary. So for us to access our ad hoc reports within our system, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my reports and searches, ad hoc reports, and then go to my ad hoc reports and searches. Within here, we do have a couple pieces of information that we do have access to. So as we see, we do have a couple of the out-of-the-box ad hoc reports that we have access to. Within here, we have the ability to view or run an ad hoc report by clicking on the View or Run button. Along with this, if I need to make any changes, I can manage or edit one of the ad hoc reports within here by clicking on Manage or Edit. Along with this, I have the ability to create what is called a quick copy. So let's say I absolutely love my $1,000 ad hoc report. It's my bread and butter. I use it every day. It's the way that I make my financial team, really thrive throughout the system. But unfortunately, later on down the line, I realized that my organization has grown and I need to reflect more money, some extra moolah. So in this instance, I can create a quick copy and I can manage and edit this copy of the ad hoc report to make it, instead of reflect $1,000, I can make it reflect $100,000 within seconds, not minutes. We also do have the ability to delete ad hoc reports. Now, granted, here at CobbleStone, we're not a big fan of the delete button, but if you 100% necessarily know that you'll never, ever, ever need this ad hoc report again, we do have that capability to do so. So if you notice on the left-hand side, we have the ability to create a new ad hoc report, which this is our newer standard tool. And for some of our older folks that have had CobbleStone for a little bit longer, what was called the ad hoc reporting tool is now called the legacy ad hoc reporting tool. So today we are going to be building an ad hoc report that is going to show all of our active consulting agreements within the CobbleStone system. So for those of you playing at home, you can follow along within your computers and follow me click by click as we do so. So first off, what we're going to do is I'm going to create a legacy ad hoc report. So within here, we do have a couple of options. The first off, we are going to give this a name. So I'm going to call this as it is, which is all active consulting agreements. Along with this, if I do end up needing a more of a description, I can add a description to go along with this name. So within a naming convention, you could call it as it is, or for some reason, if you want to give it more of a personal touch as Steve's report or Bob's report, you can also do so as well. And then afterwards, we can give it a description to help further define it. Emailer active allows me to email this report out to people. So let's say that this is a ad hoc report that is showing off all contracts that have been added within the past 30 days. What we can do is we can email this on a 30-day basis. So this way at the beginning of the month, we can see all of the ad hoc reports or all of the contracts that have been added within the past 30 days. So for our instance today, for those of you following along, I'm going to turn this off so this way we can play with the email scheduler without sending out any emails. Now we have the ability to use condition prompts. And this truly makes our ad hoc report ad hoc. And the reason why we may or may not use this is, let's say that this month, January, I want to create an ad hoc report that shows me all of the contracts that have been created this month between January 1st and January 31st. Now, later on down the line, 3 months go by and it's now April, and I want to see all of my contracts that have been created from April 1st to April 31st. So I go back in and check all of that information, and as I see, it's only showing me my contracts that have been created in January. So by using condition prompts, I can edit my filters and conditions right before I run the ad hoc report. So in this instance, I am going to turn it on to yes to show you what it is going to look like. So as we scroll down, we are able to choose our primary table. So within here, if we're working with our contracts, it is going to be our contract details. If we are working with our requests, it would be our contract requests. If we're working with our employees or vendors, we have the employees table and the vendor customer table. In this instance, since it is all of my active consulting agreements, this is going to apply to my contract details. Once we are done with that, we are then going to choose as many linked tables that apply. Linked tables being things such as tables that apply to our contract details. And I can choose up to one subtable as needed. Please note this one subtable is needed because as we go along, we are going to see a difference in the standard ad hoc report. So what we're going to do is ask ourselves some questions about what types of pieces of information within here that we're going to need. Some of my favorites are at the bottom of this list, and I'm going to ask some questions to myself that I want to ask myself before I run every ad hoc report. So first off, do I need to know information about the counterparty within the record, yes or no? In this instance, I do want to know who's on the opposite side of my consulting agreement, so I'm going to select the vendor customer table. As I go up, I see status details. Do I need to know the status of the record that I am working with? Now, this ad hoc report is all active consulting agreements, so I do believe that the status is very important for this. So I'm going to select that and I'm going to keep on moving forward. Then I see the next couple linked tables that I may or may not need. One is the locations details, which some of you may or may not be utilizing. So do I need to know about the multiple entities that I'm working with within my organization? So let's say I have multiple offices that we operate within. Do I need to know the location of that? For this instance, I know my organization is only one office, so I'm not going to be utilizing the location details, but your mileage may vary depending on your configuration of your system. Along with this, do I need to know the employee that's attached to the individual record? In my instance, I do want to know whose record it is, so I am going to choose employee details. So there are two more that I really do like. That is the department or division or department or business. So there are two more I like within here, and that is the department or business unit, which is what department is assigned to the record. Do I need to know information about that, yes or no? In this instance, I am going to select yes because I want to know what department is assigned to the consulting agreement. And finally, the contract type or the record type that we are working with. So do I need to know information about what contract type or what type of legal agreement do I have? And since this is only my consulting agreements, I'm going to select yes, and then after that, I'm going to click on save and continue. So after we've hit save and continue, it's going to bring us into our field selection within our ad hoc report. Now I want you to notice on the left-hand side, we have our wizard that walks us through the process. Imagine this as our guidepost that helps us build an ad hoc report. So as you see in the beginning, we've worked with our overview and tables. We've also worked with our field selection. After this, we're going to be doing our filters and conditions, sort order, assign to, and email schedule. And as we see in the left-hand box, we see our fields that we can bring in for either A, our view sake of our ad hoc report, or B, for our filters and conditions. Now notice these are in alphabetical order by the table it applies to and by the field name. So if we want to add a field, such as let's bring in our effective date, I'm going to click on effective date and then use the arrow to move it on the right-hand side. Now notice what we can do is we can change the display name, so this way we can make the header any name that we would like. And on top of this, we can choose if we want to show this on the report or not. So as best practice that I like to recommend is that you can hit Control F if you're a Windows user, or you can hit Command F if you are a Mac or Apple user. And one of the fields that I do recommend is the contract ID, because when we bring in that contract ID, what it gives us the ability to do is that it gives us a hyperlink to the actual record without us having to search for it. Now, other IDs I recommend that we bring in, but not exactly show on the report, is things such as our type IDs or any sort of tabled information that we have within the system that has an identification number to it. And the reason being is that names may change, but IDs never do. So an example of this is, let's say that we're doing or in this example, we're actually doing all of our consulting agreements within CobbleStone. So let's say someone later down the line, one of our system admins decide, hey, I want to give consulting agreements a more personal name. I want to name our consulting agreements Connie, due to giving all of our new contracts a sort of personal touch to it. So now I call all my new consulting agreements Connie. The problem is that if I'm looking for my agreements based on the name that it was given to, my ad hoc report is going to break since consulting agreements have become Connie. But if I'm looking based on the ID of that specific agreement, if all I did was change the name within my record types, my ad hoc report is not going to break because it's looking for the identification number, not the name. So once I've chosen all of my fields and selected if I want to show it on the report or not, I'm going to hit Save Field Selections. And once I've done that, I'm going to click on Filters and Conditions on the left-hand side. Now that I've done my field selection, it's time for me to set my filters and conditions. So as we see within here, this is what is called a Boolean expression. So what I can do is I can change my conjunction right here to make it from an and to or statement. In this instance, I'm going to keep it and since it has to be an active consulting agreement. And what I have the ability to do is add an expression. So adding an expression allows me to set my fields and set up my equation for this to make sure I'm finding all of my pieces of information. In this instance, I've added two expressions. So this way I can say when the type ID is equal to the identification number that applies to my consulting agreements. And I can make sure that it is when my status is also equal to that piece of information. So within here, I do need to find the ID for my type name. So what I'm going to do is under my setup, I have the ability to look at my record types. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that in a new tab, and we're going to look for our consulting agreements, which as we see right here, there are two of them that apply within here. One is for contracts, one is for requests. So it's identification number 36. So also I need to make sure that it is active. And as we see, I accidentally forgot to not bring in my status name or my status ID. Instead, I brought in the status name. So what I can do is hit my save and preview, go back to my field selection, make sure I bring in my status ID, bring that number over. Again, I'm not going to show it on my report. I'm going to save that field, go back to my field or my filters and conditions, go up top, look at my record statuses, and I see active is number 33. So I'm going to add my second expression when my status ID is equal to 33, and I'm going to hit my save and preview. So we want to make sure that we save and preview because this is what's going to solidify the filters and conditions. Now, granted, they're not permanent. I can still go back and add other expressions if need be. But as we see, it will show me up to 250 line items for this ad hoc report. Now, please note, do not have a fret. When we do run the full ad hoc report, it will show us as many options that it applies to this ad hoc report. But our preview is only going to show us 250. So as we see, everything here is a consulting agreement that is set to active. So I know everything is clear. Now there is one more thing that we can do, and we can add an additional subgroup if needed. And that basically takes one of these up here and applies it down here. So I could say I want to see all active consulting agreements that are with a specific counterparty or that is with two specific counterparties. So we can make this as simple or complex as needed. Now, granted, this entire subgroup is not needed. Therefore, I am going to close all of it, save and preview my filters to make sure that everything saves and applies. And what I'm going to do now is go to my sort order. So sort order is a way for me to organize all of my options that come out through the ad hoc report. So I have the ability to choose it on the left-hand side and bring it over to the right. In this instance, I want to see all of my companies in alphabetical order. So I'm going to bring over my company name and bring it to the right-hand side. Now, if there's company A, company B, company C, company D, it's going to be alphabetized from A to Z. But let's say I have more than one contract or more than one record with company A. How is it then going to be organized afterwards? Which then we can set up another sort order, which I'm going to say I want to know everything within expiration date order within that specific sort order. So expiration date in ascending order means expiring soonest to expiring latest, but you can also make this from ascending to descending order if need be. Now note our sort orders are going to take in hierarchical order. So first it's going to sort by company name, then by expiration date. And we do not recommend having more than 2 or 3 sort orders because just like making bread, we don't want to overwork our dough. This can become overworked and a little bit clunky if we keep on adding more than one sort order. So now that I have both these set, I'm going to save my sort orders. And after we see that it has been saved up top, I'm now going to assign it to employees. So as we see, I am already assigned to it since I am building it out. And now I'm going to assign other people such as Steve Stevenson. So I'm going to bring over Steve Stevenson since he's my paralegal. And along with this, I'm going to bring over Tom Johnson as well. Now we have the ability to set up who I'm sending this email to on an ad hoc basis. So I'm somebody who is in the system every day, 24 hours a day, pretty much. If I could, I'd work 365 days a year, but unfortunately, I can't be in CobbleStone every day. But I can set myself to not receive these emails. Steve Stevenson's in here, will say like 4 or 5 times a week, so maybe he doesn't need to be emailed as well. But Tom Johnson doesn't even have sign-in credentials to the CobbleStone system. So I can make sure that we do send Tom Johnson all of the information on a regular basis. So once I've set up these pieces of information, I can click on Save Assigned Employees, and now what I'm going to do is set up my email schedule. So what we're asking ourselves is, do we want to email this on a regular basis? Yes or no? In this instance, yes, I want to email this on a regular basis. When do I want to start emailing this to Tom? So I want this to be sent out, let's say, on the 1st of every month. So once I set up my first date that it's going to be set up, I have the ability to send it every X amount of days, weeks, months, quarters, or years. In this instance, I could do 30 days. I could do every 4 weeks. But in this instance, I want it to be sent on the 1st of every month. So I'm going to send it out every 1 month, and I'm going to save my email schedule. Now that we've walked through the process of completely building a legacy ad hoc report from scratch, it's now time to view and run this ad hoc report. So now that I've clicked view and run this ad hoc report, I have the ability to view my condition prompts since I had turned them on when I was first creating the ad hoc report. So this is where before you run the ad hoc report, you can change your filters and conditions if you need to. Let's say we had a couple dates, we could change those dates if need be. In this instance, everything's okay because in reality, I don't need the filters and conditions to be changed. But for the intent of what we're going over today, I had turned them on and I'm going to click continue. So on the left-hand side, I have the ability to view the contract since I did bring in my contract ID. And as we see, it does not show within here, although I did forget to hide the type ID, so we do need to go back and change that. I have the ability to export this to Excel if need be. So if I want to do anything else or save it within my computer, I can export this if need be. Along with this, we have the ability to edit the report as well. So when we go back to edit, we could do things such as turn off the condition prompts and update that information. Along with this, we could go back to our field selection. And when we're in our field selection, we have the ability to hide things that we didn't hide before. So now if I rerun this ad hoc report, we don't see those filters and conditions before we run it. And in addition to this, we don't see that type ID. So now that we've done that, it's now time to go over our standard ad hoc report. So I'm going to go back to my report list and I'm going to show you one that I have already built, which is the all consulting agreements. And as we see, we do have a field out of the box that does say, is this a legacy report, yes or no? In this instance, it is set to false. Therefore, I know this one is not my one that I just created. So what I'm going to do is click on Manage Edit and look over the standard ad hoc report. So within the standard ad hoc report, we still have the ability to work with our wizard. So our overview and tables are in two separate screens. Along with this, we do have our field selection and our filters and conditions, our sort order, assigned to, and our email schedule. And as we work through some of these, there are a couple minor differences when it comes to the interface, but our filters and conditions, sort order, assigned to, and email schedule are all identical. So first off, we are going to give it a name, just like our last one. We can still give it a description if need be. We can say if the emailer is active, yes or no. We can still use our condition prompts if we need to. I'm going to set this to no. And here is the first difference that we have between our legacy ad hoc report and our standard ad hoc reports, in that we have the ability to do inline field edits. So what this means is that let's say that we're running an ad hoc report and we're looking at all active contracts and we see as we go down, there are a couple that are active, but our expiration date is actually before the day that we're on right now. Therefore, the contract should either be expired or the expiration date should be moved. This is where we can use this tool to edit the row and edit the pieces of information within the ad hoc report without having to view the contract or search for the contract, find the fields, edit the fields, make the changes, save and continue, go back, reopen the ad hoc report, find the ad hoc report, and rerun the ad hoc report. So this allows us to take out a couple of those steps. So after we're done this, we are going to save the information, and then we're going to work with our tables. So we can still choose our primary table, and then we have our second difference, which we have the ability to add as many subtables as needed, which in our legacy tool, we're only allowed to use one subtable. But as we see here, I can pick as many subtables as I need, and I can add it to here. Along with this, I can choose the many colors to color code all of the information. So let's say I want a nice hot pink. And along with this, I want a nice little neon green color to go with that. This way I can color code all of this information. Now you might be asking me, hey Mike, why would we use the legacy tool if the new standard ad hoc tool has the ability to do more? And there is a small caveat when it comes to these pieces. So the legacy ad hoc tool is a all or nothing approach. So either all of the information needs to be met or else it won't show in the report. Where the standard ad hoc report tool is on a table by table basis. And you might be asking, what does that mean? So let's say I want to see all of the stores in my area that sell peanut candy bars. So if I ran a legacy ad hoc reporting tool, it's going to show me all of the stores in the area that sell candy. The inventory is the subtable, and it's only going to show me those stores that sell candy that have the peanut candy bar. Now, if I were to run a standard ad hoc reporting tool, it's going to show me all of the stores that sell candy in the area, no matter if they do or do not have the peanut candy bar. I would then have to drill down in the information to double check the inventory to make sure that they did or did not sell the peanut candy bar. So it'll still show the allergy-free candy store, but it won't have that peanut candy bar. And that's kind of the caveat when we do run a standard ad hoc report, is that it is going to show us all of the information that we want and a little bit more due to the extra feature it does have. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is then go to my field selection. So now that we're in our field selection, we can see a couple pieces of information within here, such as the fields that I've already selected. And along with this, I can manage or edit these fields, change their credentials, and hit save. As we see, we can still change the display name. Do we want to show in the report, yes or no? But in this instance, I do want to show you how to add additional fields. So what we're going to do is click to add the field, which then if you're adding more than one field, I highly recommend clicking add multiple fields. Otherwise, what you're going to have to do is add your information, click add, go back to click add field, rinse and repeat, so on and so forth. And I don't know about you, but I don't get paid by the click, so it can take a while by doing so. So what we're going to do if we're adding multiple fields, we're going to click add multiple fields and move on. So then we're going to choose our information. In this instance, I would like to add the status. And as we see here, we do have linked information. So what we're going to do is choose that linked information. I want to add the status name, or actually the status ID, which then do I want to show this on the report, yes or no? Do I want to allow that inline field editing, yes or no? And then once I'm done, I'm going to click add field. In this instance, I already do have the status ID, so I'm going to close that information out. Along with this, if we do want to work with any additional tables, what we're going to do is we're going to select the table that we'd like to work with up top and then move forward. Now, this is one of the odd areas of CobbleStone where everything automatically saves. So once we're done with this, we do not have to click save. We can go into our filters and conditions. And this does look exactly the same as our legacy ad hoc report, with the difference of we can have multiple subtables that we can choose from as well. So once we're done and we've picked out all of that information, what we are going to do is then set up our sort order, which is exactly like our legacy ad hoc reporting tool. We can assign people just like our legacy ad hoc reporting tool, and we can set up our email schedule just like our legacy ad hoc report tool. So once we're done with all this, we are going to view and run this ad hoc report, which we see our big difference here, which we can edit a row. So as we see, there isn't anything that is past the expiration date, but let's say that this one was. I can edit that row and switch it from active to expired, declined, so on and so forth. Once that's done, we can save the record, but in this instance, I'm going to click the X. Along with this, we still can export it to Excel if need be, and I can make edits to the report if I need to. Now, along with this, we have something that's called Easy Reports, which I do briefly want to go over. So under Reports and Searches, we can go to Ad Hoc Reports and Searches and go to Add an Easy Ad Hoc Report, which then we're going to give it a name. We can select the table that we're working with, hit Save and Continue. Then we're going to choose the type of record that we're working with. In this instance, it's a consulting agreement. And now it's going to look like the template or your ad screen within your ad or within your Add a Contract screen. So now we are going to add the information by choosing what fields we want to show on the report or use as a filter. So I'm just going to choose a couple. And then at the bottom, we have the ability to view the report, or we can add filters and conditions, which looks like our legacy and standard ad hoc reporting tool. So that's what we like to cover when it comes to an easy report. So now what we're going to do is work with our dashboards, which I'm going to go to My and My Dashboard Manager. So within here, we have the ability to create a brand new dashboard by clicking on Add New Dashboard, which we have two types of dashboards that we are able to use within the system if you're on anything newer than 17.5.4. But in this instance, I'm going to focus on legacy dashboards. So the first thing you're going to do is give it a name. In this instance, I'm going to call it my training dash. If our name wasn't descriptive enough, we can say, do we want to add a description? And along with this, we could say, is this our default dashboard? So when we first log into CobbleStone, is this going to be the first thing we see, yes or no? In this instance, I'm going to select yes. And then we could choose the width of our docs based on a 98% widthness. My preference, I like one wide doc, so I like to choose 98 and 0, but you can make it 49-49 to split it in perfect half. You can make it 60-38 or 59, 29, or you could do any configuration that equals 98. Now, please don't quote me on my math in case I'm wrong, but what we're going to do is hit Save Doc. And once we get here, we have the ability to mess with the layout. So once that's done, I see that we have three types of pieces that we can work with. First thing I want to work with is a doc. So a doc is any embedded web page or ad hoc report that we can have displayed right in front of our face. In this instance, I want to set up that brand new ad hoc report that I just created, specifically the legacy one. So I'm going to do all consulting agreements, and I'm going to say active to specify. I'm going to choose the doc type, which is an ad hoc report, but note we can also do web addresses if they allow to be embedded in other websites, or I could do a calendar. So now I'm going to choose ad hoc reports, and I'm able to choose what ad hoc report I want. I know that the legacy one was the one with a capital A, and I could choose if I want it on the left or right hand side. Now I don't have a right hand side, so I'm going to choose the left, and I'm going to save that doc. And as we see now that has been added, I do want to add one more doc, which is my calendar, so this way I can see everything that's coming up. So again, I'm going to go to my dashboards, or I'm sorry, my dashboard manager, go to my layout, and I want to add one more new doc. In this instance, it's going to be my calendar, which then I'm going to choose my calendar. And then I could choose if it goes on the left or right hand side, and then hit Save Doc. And as we see now, my ad hoc report and my calendar will show once my screen does load. And here's both of those items. So I do want to show you two more things that we are able to add, and these are what are called button tiles and summary tiles. So what I'm going to do is open up my dashboards, go to my dashboard manager, and go back to the layout, which then I have the ability to click on button tiles or summary tiles. First, we're going to work on button tiles. So what we're going to do is that these are buttons that we can have to go to any point inside or outside the systems that I need to go to. So let's say every day I add a new type of contract. So what I'm going to do is go to my contracts. I'm going to right click add contract, and I'm actually going to copy the link for that. So what I'm going to do is give it a name of add new contract, which then I'm going to paste the URL right within here. I can give it a tooltip, which basically means when I hover over it, it'll give me a nice little bar that tells me what it does, just like this little black bar that's coming up. This instance, I'm just going to say add a new contract to CobbleStone. I can give it an icon, so this way it has a nice little pretty picture when I look at it. Then I can change the colors of it as well. This instance, I want to choose this bluish green color and let's say a gray color. After that, it's going to ask me, is this an internal link? So is this a CobbleStone link, yes or no? In this instance, it's yes. Then I can choose if it's active. So this is my on-off switch. After that, I'm going to save my tile. And now we're going to start looking at summary tiles right within here as well. So summary tiles are tiles based on numeric values within ad hoc reports that are going to show us a numeric value based on a calculation within those numbers. So what I'm going to do is call this my 1K contracts. What I'm then going to do is select the ad hoc report that I'd like to choose, such as the 1K contracts. I'm going to select the numeric value that I'd like to choose for this ad hoc report. So I'm going to choose the contract amount. Then I'm going to say the calculation I want for this specific summary tile. So in this instance, I'm going to say I want to see how many contracts are over $1,000. Then if I want, I can give it a tooltip, which would then give me a clue. In this instance, I'm not going to do that. Then I'm going to choose this burnt orange color and a black. And I'm going to save this tile. And now if we do want to see what our what our dashboard is going to look like, I'm going to go to dashboards. And as we see, we have our two button tiles right here. The actual button tile that if I click on it, will take us to create a new contract like so. I also have the summary tile, which then if I click that, it'll show me all the contracts that are over $1,000. And along with this, it's going to show me my ad hoc report that I built and my calendar. So if we do want to edit any of these pieces, I can delete a doc by clicking the X button to close it completely, or if I'd like to collapse it, I can click the arrow to then collapse it. Now, if I want to edit these pieces of information within here, I'm going to go to my dashboard manager, go to my layouts. After that, I'm going to go to my button tiles, and I can choose the tile that I want to edit, such as the add new contracts. I can choose the sequence number that it's in, so if we want to organize it, we could choose what position it will sit in, and then we could save that tile to there. Same thing with our summary tiles. I could choose the tile, pick the summary tile I'd like to edit. Then after this, I can change the order, change the colors if need be, add a tooltip, and then hit Save Tile. So for our system admins out there, I do want to go over how to create a system dashboard, which is much of the same with a couple minor differences. So what we're going to do is go to Manage Setup, then we're going to go to Application Configuration, and then we're going to go to our System Dashboards, which is right here. So as we see, we do have a couple of them created, but to create a new one, we can click Add New Dashboard, select Legacy Dashboard, and fill out the credentials as needed. So again, give it a name, description, how wide we want the left or right column, and then hit Save Dashboard. If I wanted to edit the layout, just like before, I can click Edit Layout. So I'm going to edit this dashboard that exists within here. And as we see, we do have a couple button tiles up top. Along with this, we do have alerts within here as well, within the calendar. Which, if we wanted to add or edit any of these pieces of information, I can click on Add New Doc or Tile, and a little pop-up is going to come up where we can create a doc, create a button, or create a summary tile. And we can also edit the information the same way by clicking on the button tile, selecting what we'd like to change in both sections. So finally, we can also assign these to specific people or specific roles and groups within our organization. So what we're going to do is assign it. I can assign it to specific people such as Connie. And what I'm able to say is this their default dashboard? Now, if I do set this to yes, it means no matter if they created their own dashboard, this will, no matter what, be their landing page when they first sign into CobbleStone. So no matter what Connie Brown does, no matter what she does try to do, unless she's a system admin and she can deselect this, that dashboard will always be her initial standing point or landing point when she first enters into CobbleStone. So after that, I'm going to click on Save Assigned Employees, and that's going to save to Connie. Now, along with this, we do have a drop down up top, which I can assign an employee role or group or a security group to this. And much of the same, let's say I want to assign the risk management team this one, I can assign it to them and also say if it's their default. Same thing with security groups. I'm going to select the security group. As we see, legal has already been brought over, and this has not been set as their default. So after that, we can save the security groups, and now that's going to apply to those people's dashboards. Now, before we do go, I do want to show you that we can have more than one dashboard. So if I go to My and My Dashboards, let me actually go back and assign myself one of these system dashboards because they do look absolutely beautiful. So let me go back to the system dashboard. I really love this one that's labeled as dashboard. I am John Johnson. So I'm going to bring myself over, but it's not going to be my default. So once that has been saved, I am then going to go to My and My Dashboards. And as we see, there is a little drop down that shows up here. So as we see, I have my training dashboard and I have that other dashboard. So we can have as many dashboards as we need within the cases within our organization. And finally, before we do go, we do have a full calendar if you want to look at the one that isn't inside your dashboard. On the left-hand side, we can click on My Calendar, or what we can also do is go to My and My Calendar, and it will show us all the information that we need to know of, such as expiring contracts and tasks that are up and due. So I do want to thank everybody for sitting in on the ad hoc report and dashboard portion of the CobbleStone conference, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And what I'm going to now do is open up the floor for Q&A. Thank you.